Welcome to the Adapt or Die podcast. This podcast explores ideas related to self-growth, finding meaning, and living a more fulfilled lifestyle. It's your host, with the most, Armel Tala.
And it's your host, on the low, Ben Smith. We're two college students on our own path of lifelong learning with the hope that you will join us in our journey. And now, it's time for the next episode of
The Adapt or Die podcast. Welcome back to another, I'm not even going to say another episode. I'm just so excited to talk about this book. I'm not going to lie. You guys see the book in the background. Well, if you're listening, you're going to figure out the book. What's the book today, Ben?
Today, our book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. One of the most famous books of all time, really.
The amount of times the book gets recommended, like, it's insane. Like,
it's wild.
It's wild. And I remember my first introduction to this book. I was a security guard. Driving around. This one of the best jobs. Honestly, where my self-development happened. It was before I came to college. It's like
really?
One of the jobs because I was working at Marriott, lost that job, driving around being a security guard, and like the nice thing was like I'll just be lit, bro. I listen to so many YouTube videos. Like that's how I learned a lot about like personal finance. Yeah. I'd watch a whole bunch of those, but then I'd also this is one dude. Shout out to the Swedish investor. He doesn't just do books, like he does book summaries and does like 5 key takeaways from them. And he did on this book. And I remember like I listened to it and I was like the lessons from the book. I was like wow, like because. The name sounds a bit malicious. It does sound a bit malicious.
I will say though, it is not malicious at all. Like it's actually wholehearted.
It's actually very obvious. It's like how to win. The book is called How to Win Friends, Influence People. Dale Carnegie. Yeah. I thought he was related to Andrew Carnegie for a second.
No, low key I did too. And I was like, this is a totally different dude. Like
yeah, no, I was like, yo, Andrew Carnegie's brother or something wrote this. Like, yo, he got to know the secrets. But he in the book he mentioned he was like,
no, he mentioned him a lot.
Yeah, but he also mentioned he was like, yeah, you know, Charles Schwab, like. He was a really great dude at handling people. Yeah. That's why he was like one of the first people to ever get paid $1 million a year. Apparently,
I think that's what he said. Something like that.
Bring that up in the book, and he goes, yeah, I interviewed him. He just like suddenly puts like, yeah, and I asked him this question, and this is a direct quote from. I was like, wait, time out. What? You had access to one of the most powerful people. Like this isn't Napoleon. This last little rant about Dale Carnegie before, because there's another like influential writer. I guess around the time like Napoleon Hill. He Think and Grow Rich. Dude, like that's another like super influential, famous book and everything. But people say like Napoleon Hill, he didn't actually know these people. Like he was just like he's kind of like the modern day guru, like the fake guru that's like, hey, if you want to become rich, you need to change your mindset, which is essentially what the book is.
I haven't read it.
Dale Carnegie is legit. Carnegie's
legit. He really interviewed. He did his research.
He really did. But the one thing is this book hypes itself up like crazy.
It's crazy. The intro, I was like, we were talking about this. We talked about this like 3 times actually because it's so funny. The book's like, okay, I want you to skim the book. It's like in the introduction. It's like the preface of the book. It's like, oh, you should skim this book. And then once you're done, then go back and actually read the book and then think about the book and then go apply the book. And then whenever you feel like you haven't applied it, like apply it again and go practice it some more. And then it's like, also keep it in your back pocket just in case. Like he just keeps. I was like, okay.
He's like practically this is your Bible. Yeah. This is your second Bible.
He's like, you should wake up and thank God you have this book.
Like it was crazy. Like it was so much hype, but I'm not gonna lie. I was on my bed like, ooh, like it was like seeing like a trailer of a movie. I was like, I better know how to like just walk into a room and then instantly people are like, I want to be next to that dude. Like that's the book gave me that idea. Like I can just walk into a room and just like instantly win everybody.
Just shoot a smile and a wink and just wink. Not even a word, just boom, and then melts out. Who is that dude?
Ooh. But okay, enough of the talking. Enough of the talking. But why does this book hype itself up? First thing, what is the lessons?
We're talking about how to be better, just interact with humans, right? Mm-hmm. The first lesson is don't criticize, condemn, or complain others.
And this falls under, he has like different sections of the book, and we've only done half. We're going to do the second half because the first half deals with more, we can apply better, like in terms of you personally, like just interacting with people in general, like the regular call, like everyday college student can. And then the second half of the book is more for like people that
it's more geared towards like leadership like business type stuff,
yeah,
which is very
like
applicable. But the first half is more applicable to just everyday life.
So we'll cover the second half, but yeah. So don't criticize. That's the first one, and it's under fundamental techniques in handling people.
There's 3 fundamental techniques, and this is the first one. So why shouldn't we criticize people, Mel? What's wrong with that?
You know, I actually the biggest reason why you shouldn't, and this is very personal, like. In high school, my coach, he wasn't very good at, and if you're listening to this, Coach Thorne, sorry to call you out, but there was one thing that he was very easy to like criticize you about a lot of things. He was just straight like and I feel like older people they grow up in an environment where they're just straight up. They just be like, yo, you suck. Like he wouldn't be like that, obviously, but I guess it's that feeling whenever you get criticized, like you instantly just feel so demoralized. Like, and the one thing he keep bringing up is you're gonna justify why you do. And one of the stories he brought up was like, who was it, Al Capone or something? Like,
and it was like he brought up like a bunch of Al
of like
Capone,
criminals and all that. But like the thing is, anytime you ask a criminal why did you do it, or like they're just criticized by being in like. You throw them in jail. That's like a form of criticism. Like, hey, you did bad.
Like the courts are like, you did this, and then
society's like, you did bad, so you're gonna go in jail. And you always they find a way to justify. They're like, oh no, I was doing it for the right of whatever it is, right? So criticizing someone, you're not gonna get the response you think you will. Like you're either just gonna demoralize that person and be like, well, now they're questioning, can I even do it? And that's for me in basketball. It's like, oh damn, well, am I actually even like good or whatever? And then second is they're just gonna justify what they did. So in turns, like you don't get anything from it. But what did you pull about like not criticizing people?
For me, it was more like kind of going off what you said. People justify everything, right? So like people don't like to blame themselves for anything. So especially if someone is criticizing you, right, but you don't blame yourself for something, what's your reaction? You're gonna be like, oh well, if Mel's criticizing me and I don't blame myself or whatever, then I think it's personal that Mel is like criticizing me, right? So then it creates tension between me and Mel. And then kind of a second point is that in psychology, this is a dude named B.F. Skinner. He went over this, is that positive reinforcement works way better than negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement being criticizing to correct some action. Positive reinforcement being like, yo, Mel, great job last week on the podcast. Like, I really love the energy, et cetera. That's going to motivate him way more to give us that same energy rather than me being like, yeah, I mean, a couple weeks ago, your energy wasn't great. Pick it up next time. So, try again, bud. Like, it's very demoralizing.
Like, you hear that? If I heard that you said that to me, I'd be like, what? And then in turn, I'd be like, okay. And then it would turn something negative because then I would be like, okay, how can I criticize him? Like, what did he do that wasn't so great, right? So you get that negative feedback. But let's draw this line now and ask, well, when can you criticize someone, right? Because like criticism isn't always bad. Like, it's just one of those things where this almost, when I first heard this, it sounded very conflicting. It's like, don't you want criticism? Isn't that how you improve, by hearing like honestly what you do? So do you have any insight about how to actually criticize people if they say don't criticize people?
For sure. I mean, his whole point with saying don't criticize is really like in a social setting. Like if you're hanging out with people and someone says something, about something that well, I guess, and it's wrong. If it has no impact on anything, then why say anything? Just let it go. That was his point, really. But in some scenarios, it is important for you to criticize, right? So let's say you're on a basketball team and you're working together, and you need someone to work with you at a certain point, and then when they mess up, it affects everyone else. So then you do need to criticize. But the point there was just examine yourself before you criticize others. Okay,
that's exactly what I was gonna hit on.
Yeah, look at yourself and be like, all right, what am I doing wrong? And even tell the other person that. Be like, hey, I messed this up. I'm sorry that I could have helped you more in X, Y, Z, but it would also really help me if you could do this for me as well. So it's more of an approach of, I'm not perfect. Neither are you. I'm not expecting you to be, but it would really help us both if you could do X, Y, Z for yourself and for us.
And then you can also, last thing on this point, you could also lay out how you will improve, what you will do to improve.
Right.
And also the, constructive criticism and the thing where you can give the person something positive at the beginning, say, hey, you did this really well, blah, 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 and then but you could also improve this, and then overall, you'd be even better. So that's one way about looking. Don't criticize people, definitely think about what you do, and if you are going to criticize them, make sure you add some positive reinforcement. Criticize yourself or let them know about both of y'all are not perfect. Then second, not least, this kind of goes hand in hand, but you want to appreciate people, man.
Yeah.
When someone does something good, you should
let them know.
You should let them know.
But why? why is so we kind of went over the criticism, right? But this appreciation thing is actually really important. What is the root reason of why appreciation can be so effective in your management of human relations?
And that's number one is because, and again, everything we're saying, we're pulling from Dale Carnegie, and this is us just synthesizing it. But people want to feel important. Like the feeling of it, like that's what continues to, I feel like that's the reason why society is where it is today, because of that feeling of wanting to be useful, be a productive citizens. Just wanting to feel like you matter is super important, because whenever you get appreciated, it lets you know that like, okay, like, I'm adding value to something, or someone appreciates the work I'm doing. You feel important. Like, hey Ben, like, you did a really dope job on the podcast. Like you're a fundamental part. Like, sometimes I'll compliment Ben, be like, Ben is important. He does all this work for the podcast, yada, yada, yada. But, like, whatever. But, that alone, like, it makes Ben probably feel important. Like, I am a big contributor to this podcast. And especially when you're dealing with people and like in a team setting, like you want everyone to, if you want to get the most out of people, you have to, you got to have them feel like they are important to what you're trying to do.
Right. And kind of going off that, it's like, if you tell someone, if you're giving appreciation, that lets them know they're important, right? But it also lets them know in the future what they should be doing if they want to keep getting that feeling of importance. Because if you're saying, yo, Mel, last time we hopped on the podcast, great job, right? And I give you I'm like, man, your energy, your synthesis, your articulateness, I loved it. It was great. Then next time he hops on the podcast, he's like, all right, if I just do that again, then I'm fulfilling my purpose, my impact. It kind of feeds those feelings, if that makes sense, right? So that's kind of what that appreciation does in terms of reinforcing that same behavior in the future, which kind of goes back to that positive reinforcement.
And another thing, like some people may struggle, like, I don't know if any, but number one actually being that you want this to be sincere and like honest. Like you don't want to go hype, like dude scores 0 points or something. Again, bring up a lot of sports reference, or someone on your team like absolutely does nothing to the group. Like you don't want to go in there and be like, yo, thank you so much for helping out the group, or you want to go like, bro, you killed it when you was playing out there. Like that's not being honest.
It has to be a sincere compliment. You have to really look at someone and say, what did they do right? And then give them a compliment on that, because that means a lot more. It can't be flattery is what Mel is saying.
But what about for the people that struggle with this? Like that apparently that just can't seem to appreciate others.
Let's start with, I want to hear a quote from Armelicus Milius real quick about this.
A little early
and then
quote
we can synthesize.
From Ralph Waldo Emerson. I think I read a couple of his poems back in my junior year, something. But
okay.
Every man I meet is my superior in some way. In that, I learn of him.
Can you say that again, just for emphasis?
Every man I meet is my superior in some way. In that, I learn of him.
So here, just take that. Let's take 5 seconds to just let that sink in.
Okay, 5 seconds is a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time. Anyways, so kind of what he's saying here is like every person that you meet is better than you in some aspect of life. Okay. And so I feel like a lot of times we focus on ourselves. We say, okay, I want to feel secure in myself. So I focus on the things that I'm better at than everyone else. But that's kind of the wrong way to approach people. You should be looking at it and say, what is everyone else better than me at, right? And then how can I learn from them, from those things that I am worse at? How can I bridge that gap between my weaknesses and others, right? And so a lot of times if you're struggling to give compliments, it's really not because you're bad at compliments. It's because you're focusing too much on what you're better at than other people instead of focusing on what other people are better at than you, probably because you feel insecure in some way. That's like, just me being honest.
And another thing too is like that can help is recognizing those insecurities.
Yeah. Like
it's hard. Like, people don't want to do it because you're having to deal with things that you're bad at, and you naturally don't want to view yourself in that light. But being okay with the fact that like you're just not going to be the best at anything. Any of the smartest people in the world, like most successful, they will never think that they're an expert in anything. They could have built the biggest business in their industry. They could have gotten a PhD from the best school and the best thing. Like those people still will say, at least the best ones, the top at their game will say like, I don't know everything. Like I'm still not, like even though I guess I'm categorized, I have the credentials as an expert in it. Like I still believe that I can continue to grow. I can continue to learn. So having that mindset, you're going to pull that mindset just by listening to this podcast daily, baby. Okay, maybe not daily. Weekly, baby. Weekly. So that just goes hand in hand with what we do here. But last but not least, all of these, like, you guys are gonna realize, like, all of these techniques, especially when it comes to, handling people, very similar. Along with the next topic of ways to like make people like you, but this last one, arouse in the other person an eager want. So if you're wanting to, like, if you want to get someone to do something for you, right. Or like, you can't force them to want to do it. Yeah, that's one thing. It's like,
so people might argue with that, and they say, well, what if I point a gun to your head? Well, you're not really forcing them to do it. You're just saying you're shifting their desire, so they're only doing what you want because they don't want to die. So that's actually, you're just shifting their desires. That people only do things that they want to do. If that makes sense. So keep going now.
No, yeah, people.
Sorry.
It's like it's like one thing. Like, if you want someone to be super successful and like you really believe that they can do it, like, sure, you can tell them all that you want. You can give them appreciation. Don't criticize them. Give them the positive feedback, reinforcement. But if there's not that want from them, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So questions like, how do you get that want from them? And that's simply, number one, by doing the first things that we said, but also number two, like, something. I'll give you guys an example. So in my org, I have this woman called Elizabeth. I didn't know to say a girl or woman. I don't know. We're in the middle age of of like growing up. But so Elizabeth, I asked her, I was like, hey, look, I want to do a podcast for this org so we can get our names out there, and I want a co-host, and I really want a woman to be a co-host on this, because especially in STEM, it's gonna be really cool if someone comes across our page and they're like, oh, there's a woman in STEM, like, I can do it. Like, it encourages it encourages more people to get into it. So I was like, yeah, I definitely need that. And so I told her that, and I was like, at first she was really like, oh, I don't know, like, I'm not the type of person, like, I'm not really a good talker, like, and she's telling me this, I'm like, boy, you capping. Like, the reason why I asked is because she was like, she's in the meetings, like, super energetic, like, talking, like, just having, like, I barely talked to her, and we have good conversations, and I was like, So what I told her was like, no, like, I think you'd be really good at it, like honestly, like, the reason why I'm reaching out and asking you is because I think you'd be a perfect fit,
right?
And then eventually, as time went on and she accepted the role, now she's hitting me up being like, yo, I can't wait to record the podcast. Like, I really can't. So,
yeah.
And then one of the advice, like, but to synthesize what I was really saying, though, is like, one, you can arouse that eager want from people by letting them know that you believe that they can do that thing, right?
Right.
That's one thing. And another thing that the book mentions is also like really understanding people's interests, right? So if you can take someone's interest and kind of tailor that, like, what you want them to do,
right,
and make it fit to what they really are interested in, you can arouse that in them by seeing the connection.
I'm gonna insert real quick. Think about this from like a business point of view. Like, if you want someone to buy something from you, you have to consider their interests, right? Yeah. So you only get people to do something or anything really by getting them to by aligning your interests with theirs, right? And then the real question off that I have for you is, how do I understand someone's interests? How do I do that?
You close your mouth and you open your ears.
Oh.
And the asking question. It's truly asking questions to the point, because people love talking about themselves. Like, man, like, people love talking about themselves because we don't get that opportunity to always do it.
Right.
So if you simply just keep asking questions, just keep asking, like, hey, what do you like about this? And you have to, and the reason why you really have to, like, just close your mouth and really listen is because you need to make those connections. They won't directly tell you, like, oh, this specific thing is going to, like, pull this eager out of me. But if you, like, realize a trend, and when you're talking to someone, like, hey, they keep bringing this up, or when they talked about this part of their life, they got super excited. You just see it in their face. So it's very simple. There's not this magical secret to it. It's simply just listen. Be a good listener, and make sure that you're actively listening and thinking about, like, okay, what is this person like? What is this like? If you do that, it's easy again.
I think this plays really well into our next point of, so that was the 3 fundamental techniques.
But what now you just I want people to like me.
Yeah, you want people to like you, right? And what you just said fits perfectly. Talking about, you need to be, this is the first thing, you have to be genuinely interested in other people, okay? I will say that Armel is probably the best person I know at this. When I first met him, no, seriously, he'd ask me so many questions about me where I'd be like, I would talk about me for like a while, and I'd be like, oh shit, like, I don't know anything about Armel. Like, why haven't I asked him? And it was just because he would just ask me questions, and then he would literally, like, he wouldn't just ask me a basic question. He'd ask me a question, I'd answer it, And then he'd pick something out of my answer and ask me a better question than the one before. And it was just like this rabbit hole of what he was interested about my life. And it was cool because he really did like, he wanted to know more. And I was like, that's dope. Like, it made me feel important. It made me feel appreciated. I had a good conversation, right? And he was listening. Like, there's so many things that he was doing right in that way. And it was just because he was just genuinely interested in what I had to say. And I felt really good about that.
I picked out his little genuine interest, and then I was like, bam, got him on the podcast. You see, you can arouse those eager wants out of people, but not like, seriously though, I think for me, like, one, I realize that I do that, but I don't realize that I do that.
You definitely do it well. Like,
yeah, it's like I don't know. One, I feel weird, like just being like, oh, let me insert myself. Like, oh, I just, you bring up something, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I did that too. Like, to me, when someone does that, it's like, is it a competition, bro? Like,
right.
Another thing, but also it's probably from this book that I learned. Like, I promise you, over
probably
that summer when I was just watching those videos, it made so much sense. And when you're like talking to someone, I also like just like the secrecy when I finish talking to someone and they have absolutely no clue
and you know everything
me, and
about
I know
them.
everything about them. Like, I really like that point. But again, you see how over time, me and Ben's relationship ended up building off of this simple idea of just like genuinely being interested in that. And that's how I figured out that me and him had so much in common.
We had a lot in common. Like, we still do.
Like, way too much in common. At one point, like, if me and Ben lived together, it would just be like living with myself.
No, low key.
I was wake up and like me and Ben are just both waking up at like 7 a.m. in the morning. Like, why? Like, why? But that's another one. And I don't think we really need stress. It's one thing that also that's brought up, and this is difficult though. It's like remembering someone's birthday.
Okay, yeah, that's such an easy way to tell someone you're interested in them or you remember them or make them feel important. That no one does. Not no one does, but like we're just really bad at it. Like outside of my small group of friends, my brother, my parents, like I don't really remember people's birthdays like that. Just kind of like, whatever.
In my group of friends, and I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes, like I know my parents' birthday, but then I gotta think like, am I right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Like I want to double check, make sure that's correct. But I think at this point it's pretty ingrained. Yeah. But that's an easy application. Remember someone's birthday, or seriously, again, shut up and just listen. You got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And that goes perfectly into this next point. Just be a good listener, man.
Yeah.
Encourage others to talk about themselves.
Right. I mean, those two things go hand in hand, but I know you kind of want to talk about this.
So listening. I was like, I did want to talk about this.
I mean, we kind of already hit it a lot. So
no, we definitely did.
If you just want to hit touch on it, then we can keep moving.
And it goes so well. Like the reason why I feel like this book, like a lot of people really like this book, is just because these ideas, these techniques that he gives you, they all just fall. It all falls into this big bubble of just be a good person, man.
It really does.
Like but it's like be a good, like people are like, okay, be a good person, but this really tells you like how to actually be a good person. And being a good listener, this is something that is not just important when you're talking about people, but you're talking in like your career. Like if you're able to listen to like your boss and like really get to understand them. Like every time they talk, about something, like you remember maybe something specific and you bring that up in a conversation y'all have, and you guys are able to have a better connection, a better rapport, a better connection. I don't even know if I use the word rapport right. I just want to expand my vocabulary, right? You see your boy expanding his vocabulary. That's what
SAT vocabulary.
That's what reading does to you, man. I read and I'll just like Google words I don't know.
That's how you learn.
Big brain thinking. But on that, but also if you're in meetings and you're the person that's actually paying attention to what's happening, or if you're a good listener and you're able to pay attention in class, like the ability to be a good listener is far greater. And every single I like quotes a lot, and I like quotes a lot, man.
Hit him with another one.
Obviously, you can't tell.
Give me one more. No, I can never. He hits me with the quote like every time.
On top of my head, I have one. One of the ones I like is Dale Carnegie. He says, you can't build a reputation on what you're going to do. Like, that one just hit. That one hits me, bro. I'm like I think about that one every day. Like, I'm like, because I talk a lot, man. I'll be like, yo, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And I'm like, F it. Like, you can't do, you can't. Like, no one's going to remember you as the dude that just said it. But back to the point of being a good listener is every philosopher or whatever I hear, they always talk about the ability to listen is powerful. The ability to be silent is powerful. Just because like sometimes like you don't, sometimes you'll oversay things, but at the same time, like if you're just able to listen again, you can extract so much important information, and information is what's going to separate you in every single aspect of your life. So that is my rant on it. But you know, we got to move to Ben's cute smile, because I don't smile.
I like your smile.
Nah, stop lying to me.
I do like your smile.
Aw. Bro, people are gonna think we gay, bro. Hey, no offense to that. No offense to that. Be your person. Be as happy as you want. But I don't like Ben like that. But yeah, no.
No, I'm just kidding. So smiling. Okay, guys, let's just think about this logically. It's not take science, although I could go into science, but I'm not going to. Think about the energy that a dog gives you. When you see a dog, aren't you just happy? Like you're just like happy, right? Because you see a dog and the dog's smiling, dog's excited to see you, tail's wagging, they just want some love, right? That is the type of energy that you convey when you come up to people and you smile and you have that infectious energy. People love that, okay? That's not something that you have to, it doesn't just like pop out of thin air, okay? You have to make that happen, okay? And if you do, they really appreciate that. They're like, dang, like, I really enjoyed hanging around George today because just all the time, because he makes me feel good inside. And that's because people feed off of your energy, and a smile is the core of that, okay? So that's kind of my overview of why you should smile, and it has so many applications, okay? I'm just going to say this without any research backing it up, but people who smile, they manage better, okay? They teach better, they're better parents. They're also more happy just generally in their life, okay? So I know it's like a long like little blurb, but smiling can really improve your life.
I don't even think you need research really to understand that, because it's like, just think about all the people that you've interacted with that you've enjoyed. They've all had some type of more positive energy. I don't know one person that's like, that really mundane professor that just comes in every day and he's just so upset. He complains about his wife, and he was just, I just really enjoyed this class. I've never heard anyone say that. Never heard anyone say, that salesperson that was just like having a horrible day, was in a terrible mood. Like, I bought a car from him. Like, so logically, you
just know, And
we're not even gonna hit on this point too much, just because.
I want to hit a quote real quick.
Oh, Ben loves quotes. Make a quote, Ben. Oh yeah. Please hit this quote.
You must have a good time meeting people if you expect them to have a good time meeting you. It's by Dale Carnegie in the book. But doesn't that just make sense? Like, if you are not smiling and having a good time, people will not enjoy your company. That's simple as that. So we'll move on. Simple to
the point.
Just because. But
another thing we brought up though, and show you, wanting to you want to get people to like you. So be interested in others. Be a good listener. Smile. Make the other person feel important. We've already touched this,
but it's very important.
But it's so important that, like, he brings it up twice in this book in different segments. I'm pretty sure he brings it up more throughout the book as well. Easily. Like the idea of feeling important to me is just, it's huge, because there's this idea like UBI. If anybody heard of like universal basic income, right? Mm-hmm. So there's this argument against UBI that says, well, if you introduce UBI, you kind of strip away what humans fundamentally desire, and that's the feeling of being important, feeling like they're useful to something or someone. And so by saying like, hey, like, robots have taken over your job, automation has taken over your job, and we just can't figure out what to do with you, so we're just going to give you money and you can just sit around, be useless. And like this, I'm saying this very cynically.
No.
And if you've ever listened to Jordan Peterson, he's brought up this argument as well. Like, this is who I got it from, actually. And you're taking away that feeling of importance. It's like, it makes so much sense, because to me, whenever I have days where I'm sitting around and I'm not like doing anything, or I just like in the morning, like I wake up very sluggish. Like, I just feel so unfulfilled, Like, fulfillment comes from two things, in my opinion. It comes from spending quality times with the people that you actually care about. Got that one from Ben. And two, this one's me. Well, not what I said, but something that I lean toward a lot more towards, is that you get fulfillment through your progression towards a goal, not actually achieving that goal, but progressing towards a goal. But in those two things, what's in common? There's this feeling of being useful, being wanted. Like, when you're around your friends, family, you feel wanted. You're like, you're having a good time. You're all interacting. You feel wanted. When you're working towards something, you feel like you're progressing. You feel important. You're like, oh man, I'm going to really reach this big goal, or you see yourself progressing towards that. So that feeling of importance, if you can put that on someone and be like, yo, I really think you can do, you give someone a leadership role in your organization. I really think you can do this, man. Like, like you're a big part of this. You're a big part of this organization.
Right.
They're going to take more responsibility. They're naturally going to be like, yo, I feel like, I really got to live up to that. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that's really big. Is there anything you want to add to that?
I just want to hit this home. Think about when we all the things we just said.
Time out. If you haven't listened to anything else we said in this podcast, listen right now.
Every point that we've mentioned so far has to deal with this point of making others feel important. Okay, if you criticize someone, that makes them feel less important. Okay, giving honest appreciation, that makes them feel more important. If you're arousing an eager interest by considering their needs, that makes them feel more important, right? If you're genuinely interested, that makes them feel important. If you're listening, that makes them feel important. If you're smiling, that says, I like you, that makes them feel important. Okay, everything comes back to the fact that people need to feel loved and appreciated and important, okay? That is kind of the core idea behind a lot of these things. So a lot of these ideas.
Last but not least, the sweetest and most important sound to anybody's ear, and no matter what language,
is their name.
Man.
Don't forget it.
You ever like, you just walking and you just hear someone, yo, Ben, like, don't you just like,
you're just like,
it depends sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it does.
It depends a bit.
But
like most of the time,
most of the time, you're like, man.
You just turn around, you're like, who's calling for me? Like, that's how I'm like, ooh, who's interested in me right now? Like, and especially when you don't expect it too. It's like, especially when you don't expect it, because there's a thing of getting approached, be like, yo, bro. It's like, okay, cool, what's up? I've seen you before, and it's like, yo, Armel, oh, that's how I know you, the homie. Like, you really know me like that. Yeah. Like, I really know you like that. So that's, I don't know.
We don't hit on this too much, but it's such a subtle but effective compliment when you meet someone for just one time and they say their name, and then 3 weeks later you're like, yo, what's good, bro? And like you're like, what's good, Joe, insert name there, right? Like they really appreciate the fact that you remembered their name, especially if they don't remember yours. They're like, oh dang, like he really values me. It's kind of back to the importance thing, right? If someone remembers your name, it means a lot to you, because you're like, wow, I must have been memorable, which makes you feel important. Yeah,
and there's two things, and I want to hit home on this. It's number one, like, and it's really important when you're first, like, especially dealing with, like, if you're focused on networking, but it's earlier in the relationship if you're remembering someone's name. Like, early in the relationship, if you meet them once, like Ben says, and you turn around, you're able to, like, remember their name and bring it up. Like, in my mind, whenever that happens to me, I'm like, yo, damn, like, he remembered my name. Like, I don't even remember his. And it's like, so that alone will, like, you will be remembered more by that person because you said their name after just barely meeting them. But I think there is a time when, like, the name being used is like, I'm not always like, yo, I'm not always like Ben. Like, you get to a point where you just refer to each other as something common. It's like, bro, da-da-da. This. So when I brought that up earlier, of course, there's, like, different, based on y'all's relationship and how long you've known each other, the effectiveness of a name, of using that person's name,
it diminishes.
It diminishes, yeah. What is it called? Like the law of diminishing returns or whatever. Blah, blah. I just throw that law every time. I think that law applies to everything. Like, there's diminishing returns in everything. But I think after hitting home on such, I'm talking about this made me really excited, just because, like, now for me personally, like, I'm trying to build an organization and at school, so, like, I feel like I can really take these and apply them. But I think I have bad memory. I already forgot. So I think I need some rapid recap.
We're back with the rapid recap.
Man, I don't know how much time I should give you on this one.
Like minute, 2 minutes.
2 minutes? I'm going to give you one third of that. You got 20 seconds.
Damn. I'm pretty sure that's 1/6 of 2 minutes, but.
Nah, I was thinking off of a minute.
I got you.
Hey, don't play me, boy. Double major in math. Don't play me. All right. You got 20 seconds starting now.
Okay. There are 3 fundamental principles of dealing with people. First, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Second, give honest and sincere appreciation. Third, arouse the other person, a near one. The second thing is how to make people like you, become genuinely interested, smile, remember their name, be a good listener, and finally the thing that ties it all back together, make the other person feel important through all these things. Done.
You hit that, like, on the clock. That was like buzzer beater. Like, he let it go. There's, right now the NBA is reviewing it. They're like, did it really go off his fingertips right on time?
3.
Barely.
All right.
Y'all got the gist of it.
Now for my favorite part of the episode, and this is one of my favorite quotes. It's a little long, but Armelicus Milius, take us away.
The reason why rivers and seas receive the homage of 100 mountain streams is that they keep below them. Thus, they are able to reign over all the mountain streams. So the sage, wishing to be above men, puts himself below them. Wishing to be before them, he puts himself behind them. Dost thou, his place, be above men? They do not feel his weight, though his place be before them. They do not count it an injury.
So profound. If you didn't get that, Mel, can you recap on what this means?
Simply put, the best leaders are those that you really can't, like, are those that are not, putting themselves in front and being like taking all the, the credit for the accomplishments. It's not the one that's, you see them on the front of every page. The best leaders are those that are working behind their team, that they're not having their team trying to lift them up and carry them.
Right.
They're actually under their team trying to support them. That's kind of the idea
really
of being
point.
Like under, as in like you're the support system to your team. Your team is not just there to support your ideas and everything. So I think if you truly want to get people to, one, respect you, you truly want to be a better leader, be a better person when dealing with people, is just to understand that you can't think that you're better or above anybody. That in itself, that thinking will just put you below.
Everyone has something to offer, right? So treat them like they do have something to offer. And kind of going back to the leadership thing, I think the highest form of leadership is service, because as a leader, your job is to enable others to do their job, and you are inherently serving them. So that's what it means to be a leader. It means to serve others at the expense of your own self through sacrifice. That's what my definition of being a leader means.
So this was our little quick dive into the book. There's definitely going to be a part 2 because there's so much more we didn't cover, and it's going to be a lot more focused on leadership. Yep. So hope you guys really pulled something for this one. Thank you for listening. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Adaptive Dive. Follow our TikTok at AOD Media. Subscribe to us on YouTube right below AOD Media. AOD Media. Just check us out everywhere. Just check us out, guys. Check us out everywhere.
Check out the blog. Check out the clothes. Check it all out.
All the links will be down below in the description, and also below we're going to be adding a form where you can put a request on like what topics you want us to talk about, because we're slowly growing. We're growing we're growing the base. So while we're small, we want to make sure that we interact. We get as much interaction, no matter how much we scale. Of course, we're going to continue to interact with everybody, because you guys are really important to us. You guys is what makes us. Look at me using some of the tactics in this. I'm making y'all feel important.
They are,
guys. You guys are. You guys genuinely are.
We genuinely appreciate y'all listening so much. We put so much effort into trying to benefit ourselves, but really benefit y'all as well, because we're trying to help others in this crazy world, and that's our goal. So thank you so much for listening. It means the world.
And we'll catch y'all next week when we talk about, what are we going to be talking about next week? Oh, discipline. Yes. We're going to be talking about discipline from a more personal,
very personal standpoint.
An anecdotal point of view of discipline. Peace.